Hello, I'm Jim Burris, host of All Things Considered on WABE in Atlanta. This is the debate among Democratic candidates for insurance commissioner. Let's meet the candidates for this debate. They are in alphabetical order. Raphael Baker is a business owner. Janice Laws Robinson is an insurance professional. And Matthew Wilson is a Georgia House representative for District 80. And now let's meet our panelist. Andy Miller is the Southern Bureau Chief for Kaiser Health News. And Don Montgomery is the Chief Brand Officer for the Atlanta Voice. For complete rules on today's debate, please visit the Atlanta Press Club website. That's atlantapressclub.org. Well, to start the debate, each candidate will be asked one question by one of the panelists. Candidates have 60 seconds to answer each question. Andy Miller, you get the first question to Janice Laws Robinson.
Ms. Robinson, Georgia has among the highest auto insurance rates in the country. If you're elected as insurance commissioner, what will you do in order to make it more affordable for Georgians?
Thank you for the question. As many of you know, I ran in 2018 for insurance commissioner, and my number one fight was auto insurance. And this continues to be my fight. Georgia has the highest rates in the country. We've had the highest rate increases across the board. As your next insurance commissioner, I will fight to repeal and replace Senate Bill 276. We know that with the passing of Senate Bill 276 in 2008, insurance companies have been given the opportunity to charge whatever they want, and I will fight to ensure that that stops. I will make sure that I challenge every rate increase that comes to the department, and I will hold insurance companies accountable.
All right, Don Montgomery, it is your turn to ask a question to Matthew Wilson.
Thank you so much. Mr. Wilson, just talk about your experience and what makes you the better candidate to become the insurance commissioner of Georgia.
Well, thank you for that, Don. There is a fundamental difference between me and my opponents because they've both spent 20 years in the insurance industry, and I have not. I've been a middle school teacher and a trial lawyer and a state representative. You all sell policies, but when accidents happen, tragedies occur, Georgians come to me in my law practice to hold big insurance companies accountable, and sometimes that means we have to take them to court. This position is not about electing the best insurance agent. It's about electing a chief consumer advocate for the state, somebody that will be working for you. For the last 4 years, while my opponents have been selling policies that make money for themselves and for the big insurance companies, I've been fighting under the Gold Dome to fully expand Medicaid, introducing the first ever Medicaid public option in Georgia, and a plan to ban discrimination against Black and brown folks simply because of their zip code. That's why I'm proud to be endorsed by over 75 elected Democrats in this state, because they know as your next insurance commissioner, I'm working for you, not the big insurance companies.
All right, thank you. And I would like to give a chance to Janice and to Raphael to respond to that, since you were called out basically for your position as an insurance salesperson. And Janice, would you like to respond?
I just want to say there's a big difference between an insurance expert who is knowledgeable about the insurance industry that works with Georgia families just like you to make sure you're secure and to put money back in your pockets than an insurance industry insider or whatever Mr. Wilson is trying to paint me as, because that paint is not going to stick. You trusted me in 2018 because you know I'm here to fight for you, and I'm here so that we can finish what we started and you can have a true consumer advocate that cares for you.
Thank you. And Mr. Baker, would you like a rebuttal?
Yes. So, for my opponent, when someone comes into a race that's completely unqualified, I call that privilege. I am unbought and unbossed. I am in the industry, but no one owns me, no one controls me. No special interests are lining my pockets. Thank you.
All right. Moving on now. Andy, you get the final question in this round, and that goes to Raphael Baker.
Mr. Baker, we know that many consumers out there have deep complaints about health insurance, about the cost, and about access to care, whether their networks of doctors is adequate enough. How would you address those issues as commissioner?
Okay, so back in 2018 and 2019, 2019, I lost my best friend to kidney failure. So I got to see firsthand the failures in our healthcare system. First of all, we need to expand Medicaid. There are millions of Georgians that are uninsured. We have to make sure that healthcare is a right and not a privilege.
All right. That concludes the first round of this debate. The candidates will now ask a question to an opponent of their choice. Each candidate will have 30 seconds to ask that question, 60 seconds to respond, and the candidate who asks the question will have then 30 seconds for a rebuttal. And by random selection, Matthew Wilson, you ask the first question.
Ms. Laws Robinson, 4 years ago in your first campaign, you were asked on this very stage if you would settle for anything less than full Medicaid expansion. And you said that, yes, you would support a partial expansion waiver program. In 2019, Governor Kemp pushed through just such a waiver that I vehemently opposed because it only covered a tiny fraction of the millions of Georgians that still need health insurance and included work requirements. How can Georgians believe that you will fight for them and for full Medicaid expansion when just 4 years ago you told us you would settle for something significantly less?
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. There is a difference between saying you will settle for something less and being willing to explore options to ensure that Georgians are covered. And what my position is that we've been in healthcare purgatory in Georgia for more than a decade. And I want to make sure that we fight to fully expand Medicaid. However, as the insurance commissioner does not expand Medicaid. That will be up to our next governor and our General Assembly. I am willing to ensure that we have innovative solutions. As a forward-thinking leader, I want to ensure that we have options to fight to, number one, expand Medicaid. However, I am focused on what's in my control to ensure that we bring more insurance companies into the market and to ensure that every single Georgian has a health insurance card in their pocket.
Thank you for that. And Matthew Wilson, would you like a rebuttal?
Thank you. Ms. Laws Robinson, you did say that you would settle for a waiver 4 years ago. And, the thing that people hate most about politicians is when they say one thing about an issue yesterday and tell you something completely different today just for your votes. We can't afford to wonder where our next insurance commissioner will fall on this issue or what creative solution they might come up with. The stakes are too high. I'm the only Democrat on this stage that has consistently fought for full Medicaid expansion and introduced the bill for a Medicaid public option. Thank you.
Thank you. And Janice Laws Robinson, you get the next question.
I have a question for Mr. Wilson. So, Mr. Wilson, you claim to be a consumer advocate and a consumer champion. Yet during the pandemic, when you had a chance to choose whether you're going to support hardworking Georgians over big interests, you supported big interest companies with the COVID immunity bill. Why should Georgians trust you now?
Let's talk about that bill. I supported that bill at the beginning of the pandemic because I wanted to make sure if employees were going to be forced to go to work, that they had access to workers' compensation fund if they got sick. And I also wanted to make sure that we placed limitations around the extraordinary powers that the governor had during the pandemic emergency. It was certainly far from a good bill, but and it was a hard vote. But that's what my constituents sent me to the Capitol to do. And, it's easy when you've never held elected office to cherry pick one vote and say that you would do it differently. But I stand by my record on that issue. It did come up the next year for a renewal, and I opposed that because it did not do enough to protect workers. I introduced the legislative fix to provide those protections, and when they weren't included in the bill, I spoke against it on the floor on behalf of the Democratic caucus. As Democrats, we shouldn't be attacking ourselves on this issue when we know it's the anti-science, anti-mask, anti-local control Republican Party that's responsible for the mismanagement of our pandemic here in Georgia.
And Ms. Laws Robinson, would you like a rebuttal?
Yes.
30 seconds.
So, Mr. Wilson, you just called me a politician, then you said I'm not elected office. So make up your mind. Make up your mind. As the next insurance commissioner, I will put you first. Mr. Wilson is the only politician on this stage. He has no background in insurance, and he is an opportunist who's looking for his next opportunity out of the legislature. I was here in 2018 fighting for you and your family, and I will continue to do just that. Throughout my career, that's what I've done, and that's what I will continue to do.
All right, thank you for that. And Raphael Baker, you get the final question in this round.
Yes, thank you. So my question is for Mrs. Laws Robinson. One of the biggest things that you say on the campaign trail is that you run a successful agency. But according to the financial disclosures, over the past 4 years, your agency only netted $5,000. So you're saying that you're talking to all of your customers. You must not have a lot of customers. So how do you answer to that?
Yes, absolutely. So as your next insurance commissioner, and from 4 years ago, I have committed to slowly wean my way out of the insurance industry so that I am not taking money from big insurance. My husband and I, we have a business. We have a technology and IT company, and that's what our primary income is from. So I'm able to serve my customers, not take new money from insurance companies, and that's my commitment to Georgians and to you and your family.
And Mr. Baker, you do have 30 seconds for a rebuttal if you so
Yes.
choose.
In 2018, when Stacey Abrams lost the election, she began a quest to change the world. In those last 4 years, Janice, the only thing you changed was your last name.
Okay.
That concludes our second round. For those of us just joining us, this is the debate between the Democratic candidates for insurance commissioner. We will now go back to the panel to ask questions to the candidate of their choice. That is until we run out of time. As a point of moderator privilege, I might also question some of the candidates. I will determine when a rebuttal is also appropriate. Don Montgomery, you get the first question in this round.
Thank you so much. I know the other two candidates have talked to each other most of the time, so I want to direct this to Mr. Baker. How do you feel that the state of Georgia needs, what type of insurance commissioner do they need at this time?
So Georgia needs someone who is experienced. I have experience in the industry from both sides, from the sales side, also the leadership side. Someone who knows what they're doing, someone who is properly educated and credentialed. When you go to your doctor, you want to ensure that they have the proper credentials. The same with your insurance commissioner, and I am that person.
All right, Andy Miller, you get the next question.
This is to all the candidates. Consumers really want to know which companies are the best behaved or best acting companies out there in the marketplace. How would you increase transparency of data about complaints against each of the companies, whatever line it is, whether it's health insurance or auto insurance?
And Matthew Wilson, we'll start with you.
Thank you. I've put forth the fair and honest licensure plan, committing to use the power of the insurance commissioner to investigate insurance companies and put all of that information on the public website. We're also going to put up a database so that consumers can search the insurance companies to find where they can get the best deal and see where we've issued fines against insurance companies for not complying. We're also going to eliminate the discrimination that is still allowed to persist in the insurance premiums against Black and brown folks in Georgia, where they're paying nearly double for auto and home insurance just because of the zip code where they live. All of that ends when I'm your next insurance commissioner. And I do also want to just say that I'm the only candidate on this stage who's not from the insurance industry. I take insurance companies to court to hold them accountable, and I'll continue to do that as your next insurance commissioner.
Janice Laws Robinson, your turn.
Yes, so the next insurance commissioner needs to understand what Georgians are dealing with. As your next insurance commissioner, I will investigate insurance companies. I will investigate insurance companies. I will use my reporting powers to ensure that we have full transparency. I will ensure that we have a communication framework across the state, including email capabilities so that customers and citizens across the state can enroll and opt in to receive emails, because that's the best way, is to have full communication so that we have a sender and a receiver. Currently, there are bulletins, there's announcements on the website, but there is no real communication with Georgians. So I will ensure that we have communication across the state.
Thank you. And Mr. Baker, it's now your turn to answer Andy Miller's question.
Yes, I want to go back to something my unqualified opponent said. He talked about zip codes. So when it comes to black and brown people, it goes beyond just the zip codes. The systemic racism is due to socioeconomic factors that have nothing to do with your driving record, such as your marital status, whether or not you own a home. And yes, your zip code is a part of it. So I will bring transparency into the Department of Insurance. Right now, the current insurance commissioner is invisible. I affectionately call him Casper. I will be visible and I will be available.
And Matthew Wilson, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, thank you. The problem is, for the last 25 years, we've had insurance industry insiders who have run the insurance commissioner's office and refused to hold their friends in the big insurance companies accountable. That ends when you elect me as your next insurance commissioner. And I do understand that it goes beyond zip codes. That's why I introduced the legislation in the State House to prevent things like credit history, whether you live in an apartment versus a mortgage, things that have nothing to do with your insurance policy, but are being used as proxies for race.
Thank you. Don Montgomery, your turn.
Can I have a rebuttal?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So Mr. Wilson keeps saying for the last 25 years, insurance insiders have ran the department. But what's actually true is for over 100 years, it's been the good old boys club that's ran this department. There's never been a black person and there's never been a woman. And that is the problem. Not insurance insiders. We can check. It's been white male attorneys or legislators that have ran this department. Just like Mr. Wilson.
And we need to move on, please.
Final rebuttal?
Don Montgomery, please ask your question.
Okay. My final question basically is to all of you all. I know that everyone has what they're doing or what they want to do specifically in this role. Is there something that you've seen previously from an insurance commissioner for the state of Georgia that you would like to change immediately once you're elected in office?
This time we'll start with Raphael Baker.
I would like to change everything about the current administration. First of all, we have someone who is unqualified. He was appointed and not anointed or elected. So first of all, bringing qualifications back into the office, but also someone who is visible, someone who knows what they're talking about, and someone who is going to educate the public. Thank you.
And Ms. Laws Robinson.
Yes, so I will bring consumer advocacy back to the department. I will bring a heart and a soul back to the department. I'm running because I care for Georgia families. I'm the only one on this stage that's been fighting for you for the last 4 years. I ran because I care, and I'm going to continue to care for you and your family.
Thank you. And Matthew Wilson.
The first thing I'd want to change is to repeal the file and use law that went into effect in 2008. It's been one of the main reasons why we have highest in the nation insurance premiums. But I want to go back and just respond to what Ms. Laws Robinson said earlier, because I'm certainly not black, but to insinuate that this gay man who grew up as a closeted gay boy in Griffin, Georgia, is somehow a good old boy is absurd. They may invite me in the door, but as soon as I talk about my husband, that door gets slammed in my face too. The difference between us and them, though, is that we're the party of inclusion. That's why I've been so proud to stand and fight with my black colleagues in the legislature on historic progress on things like the hate crimes law and beating back against this all-out assault on our voting rights, because these are issues that affect all of us. I'm proud to be endorsed by a majority of the Legislative Black Caucus and organizations like the Georgia National Organization for Women, because they know me, they know my values, and they know as insurance commissioner, I'll be fighting for you, not the big insurance companies.
And Ms. Laws Robinson, we have a brief moment if you'd like to respond to that.
No.
Okay, thank you. Andy Miller, you get to ask the next question.
The next question is for all of you, and that is, in our elections for insurance commissioner, we allow, and even in office, we allow contributions by insurance companies. And certainly past and present commissioners have accepted these contributions, the political gifts, donations, whatever. Is that a good system to have?
And we are running short on time, so I'm going to ask these questions to be answered in 45 seconds or less, if you could. We will start with Janice Laws Robinson.
No, I do not think that the insurance commissioner candidate should be financed by insurance companies. And I have not taken any money from insurance companies. In fact, as I said earlier, I've been phasing out that work with insurance to get new money from insurance companies. And so I think that's a very bad idea because the good old boy system has owned this department. They have been bought and paid by the insurance industry. And as your next insurance commissioner, I will not be bought and paid by insurance. The only people that finance my campaign are you, the hardworking Georgia families.
All right, and Matthew Wilson.
So it's interesting that she claims she doesn't take money from insurance companies. We're legally not allowed to accept money from regulated industries, but you'll notice from her disclosures that there's a lot of money coming from insurance agents and brokers to Ms. Laws Robinson. I'm certainly open to looking at ways that we can change that system and make it more fair and transparent. I've been fighting for that in the State House the last 4 years. It's not a good system when we have the industry funneling tons of money every year. And you watch right after this primary, on the other side, you're going to see a lot of money funding behind the Republican candidate. My money, all of my support comes from hundreds of Georgia consumers just like you.
And Raphael Baker, you get the last word in this round.
Okay, simply put, I haven't and I won't. Additionally, my opponent talked about endorsements. Remember, these endorsements come along with strings. The only endorsements I'm seeking are the endorsements of the people.
All right, that's all the time we have for questions. Each candidate will now have 60 seconds for a closing statement. And Raphael Baker, you get the first closing statement.
Georgia deserves an insurance commissioner that is going to fight against systemic racism. Georgia deserves an insurance commissioner that believes healthcare is a privilege, not a privilege, but a right. Georgia deserves an insurance commissioner that is going to create agency owners in these underserved, underrepresented communities. Georgia deserves somebody that is going to fight alongside our next governor for the full expansion of Medicaid. Georgia deserves me, Raphael Baker, as your next insurance commissioner because I am the change that Georgia deserves. Thank you.
Matthew Wilson, your closing statement.
I want to thank both of my opponents because whoever emerges from this primary, we need to be laser focused on beating the Republicans in November because the stakes could not be higher. But I do hope that this debate has clarified that you have a choice in this primary. I'm the only Democrat on this stage who is not from the insurance industry. I'm a trial lawyer who takes big insurance companies to court. I'm the only Democrat on this stage that has consistently fought for full Medicaid expansion and introduced the bill to provide a guaranteed health insurance for every Georgian for free. I'm the only candidate on this stage with the fair and honest licensure plan to ensure we ban discrimination in insurance premium setting and bring down our highest in the nation insurance premiums. My opponents sell the policies, but when tragedy strikes, Georgians come to me in my law practice to hold insurance companies accountable, and that's exactly what I'll continue doing as your next insurance commissioner. Please visit MatthewForGeorgia.com. I'd be honored to have your vote. Thank you.
And Janice Laws Robinson, you get the final closing statement.
Thank you. As women, we represent the majority of Georgia insurance consumers. We deserve to have representation in this vital governmental office. As your next insurance commissioner, I will bring my 2 decades of experience working with Georgia families just like you and ethical leadership to fight for affordable auto insurance rates, to close the health insurance gap, and to stop redlining in our communities. In 2018, you trusted me, and I do not take that for granted. I ask you for your vote, again, to ensure that you have a friend and a consumer advocate in the Office of Insurance Commissioner. Vote Janice Laws Robinson to be your next insurance commissioner. A win for me is a win for you.
And that concludes our debate this afternoon. We'd like to remind voters that Election Day is Tuesday, May the 24th. Early voting is now underway. We want to say thank you to our candidates, to Raphael Baker, Janice Laws-Robinson, and Matthew Wilson, as well as our panelists, Don Montgomery and Andy Miller. We'd also like to thank the Atlanta Press Club for arranging today's debate. For more information on the debates they will host this election season, just visit theatlantapressclub.org. I'm Jim Burris. Thanks for joining us for the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series.